Thousands of South Africans are expected to register to vote this weekend. This is ahead of the 2024 general elections. A very good afternoon. If you've just joined us, we're coming to you live from our studios here in Johannesburg. Welcome to Week in Review. Now, this is the program where we review some of the biggest stories to come out of the week. I'm your host, Mfundo Mabala. We start in the Northern Cape now, where SABC News reporter Ulrich Hendricks is monitoring voter registration in Kimberley, and he joins us now with the very latest. Good afternoon. Where exactly are you, and how is the turnout this afternoon?
Hi, Fundo. Well, I'm at the Newton Primary School. This is one of the biggest voting stations here in the Kimberley CBD area. But as for voter turnout, it has been quite disappointing, in the larger Kimberley and Solplaatje area this morning. We went to quite a number of voting districts, and what we've seen is quite disappointing. We see 1, 2 or 3 people coming in to register to vote. Not a lot of people coming to actually register to vote for that crucial 2024 local government elections. We've spoken to people on the street. Some of them are saying that it is a weekend drive, so some of them might come tomorrow. Others, of course, saying that this is the first voter registration drive, so there is another one coming next year. But also political parties that are present here and who are mobilizing people to come and register to vote, also saying that they doubt that the IEC's 10% new voters will be realized this weekend. That is, of course, the target the IEC in the Northern Cape has set itself. They want 60,000 new voters to be added to the voter roll. But let's talk to Arun Raghwari. He's, of course, one of the people who actually made it to the voting district to re-register. Tell us, why was it important for you? You are not a first-time voter, so did you change wards, or how did it come about?
Thank you very much, sir. Yeah, indeed, I'm Arun Raghwari. Well, it is my third time voting. I relocated here in Kimberley in 2019. The last time in 2019, I voted here in Kimberley. And then during this week, we saw an advert by IEC, and then we decided, why not? Let's just go and register to vote next year, and then, so that our voice can be heard.
So this will be your third time that you're going to vote in 2024. So you're used to the process. We know that there are changes coming in terms of how we vote, and have you had any voter education about how this is going to change?
Currently, yes, like on TV and also in media, and also remember, as youth, we are always on our phones, social media, so everything is there, the information is there. So I know for a fact that if they don't go to vote, like walk in, obviously online, they're going to opt for online, so yeah.
And then why is it important for you to vote? I think that is a big question.
For me, it's important for my voice to be heard. Also for the political parties that I'll be voting, in case they become in power, obviously they have to deal with the current situation that we are facing, the high unemployment rate. Also assisting with the issues of NSFAS funding for those indigent students, and also eradicating poverty and other issues, most important issues that are facing our people.
So you've seen the voting district, you see how slow it is. In terms of young people especially, what do you want to tell them to get them to come here and register to vote? Yeah.
My message to the youth is for them to come in numbers to vote, so that next year they can make their voice heard, so that they don't say, I wish I could have registered. You see, so if they can come and register in numbers, walk in, or just to go online on IEC and register to vote next year, so that they will know to make informed decisions as to which parties do we vote, which one will will do what we want, which one will eradicate unemployment, which one will fund us, all those kind of things. Yeah, it's just for them to come in numbers. Say, even today you can see it, okay, it's just trickling, but I believe that because of most of us, we are on social medias and everything, most of them will just do it online. So next year for them to cast their vote, to vote their political parties of their choices, and then we'll take it from there.
Thank you very much, Aaron Rupari. Of course, he re-registered here at Newton Primary School, of course, changing wards. He also brought his sister, but she's very camera shy. She's going to be a first-time voter next year. So she was actually the one who saw the poster and said, I want to register to vote. And of course, like Aaron said, register to vote, and then next year you'll make up your mind to whether to vote or not. But if you leave it until then, you won't be able to vote. But like I said, 10% more young people, and especially young people, new voters that the IEC wants to add on the voters roll for this weekend. But it has been very, very slow, Mfundo. So I'm not really sure that they will be able to reach that target.
Quite unfortunate. Ulrich, thank you very much for that reportage. That's SABC News reporter Ulrich Hendricks, who's out in the Northern Cape for us. Now, registration stations open today and tomorrow between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. and voters can also register online. We're going to cross to our reporter now covering the registration weekend in the Eastern Cape. That's Fundiswa Mhlegude. She's in Mqhekezweni. Fundiswa, good afternoon. Perhaps to just start with the turnout there, how's it looking?
Thank you very much. Well, we have just been to a registration voting station here at Mqhekezweni village. And when we spoke to the IEC officials there, they were saying that only 10 people have come to register for voting since this morning, but only 10 have come. And right now we are just outside Mqhekezweni clinic. As you can see, it's very hot here, and we are sitting under the shade of a power line because it's very hot. So many people have come to this clinic because there is a Home Affairs of mobile office that has come for people to register, to apply rather for identity documents, those who cannot go and register to vote due to not having identity documents. And as you can see, there are people over there who are also waiting for their names to be called by the Home Affairs officials for them to go and apply for identity documents. As I said, it's very hot. They are protecting themselves with their clothing items, protecting themselves from the sun. It's very hot, like I said. But with me now is one of the people who came here to apply for identity document, Mama Unokwanda Timakwe, who says that she doesn't have an ID. She lost her ID. Mam Nokwanda, enkosi wethu ngexesha lakho uthi awukwazi wena ukuyobhalisa because awunayo i-ID wayilahla.
Ewe sisi andinayo i-ID yalahleka. And ke ngoku nake njema ndilapha eMqhekezweni ndinyuke ngenyawo. Ndinyuka apha kwehebehebe, kulo mlambo lapha kwehebehebe. Sinyuka ngenyawo nonyana wami siza apha salahlekelwa zi-ID. Nawu ke ngoku nake into ke eyasinqaza ke ngoku apha njema sihleli apha, sihlelela into esingayaziyo. Kuba uthiwo ukuba apha asizukwazi thina ukwenzelwa i-ID abangaqaliyo. Bayitsho ke ingxaki yabo abantu bakwa-Home Affairs ukuba akubhataleki kakuhle. Ngoku nake into ngosifane sicakamele apha kweli langa litshisa kangaka sisi, sicakamele into yokokuba mhlawumbi kungathi xa kugqitywa aba bantu mhlawumbi ke basenzele loo nceba, asiyazi into esihlaleleyo apha.
Kwenzeka ntoni kwi-ID zakho mama nonyana wakho?
I-ID zam njengoba i-ID zabantwana zigcinwa sithi, i-ID yakhe yayilapha kum ebhegini. Ngoku na zalahleka ke edolophini, caba ke ndapokothwa, yaqonda sahamba nesibhaji sam. Ngoku ndimane ndijika kwa-Home Affairs ngenxa yelayini. Ngoku enye into ke ngoku sisi ebethayo kwa-Home Affairs yazi uba yintoni? Yile nto yalo mbhukisho. Le nto lo mbhukisho ngoku na ke iyasibetha ke thina ngoba sikwazi uzicofa izinto ezifowuni zabantwana.
Uba ke mama ubunayo i-ID ungenale ngxaki yale ID ubuzobhalisela ukuvota. Zithini ingxaki zenu ningabantu abangomama kule mmandla wasemqhekezweni?
Sisi kaloku mna andikwazi ungavoti. Apha sihlala ngokuba sivota kweli lizwe. Noba uvotele lo mbutho wakho ke. Into esinayo thina yinto ye-crime nje ekhoyo apha, kodwa ke sesibulela kuburhulumente uyazama kuba noko ngoku iimeko azisafani nakuqala. Ewe, zezo ngxaki nendlela ke sinazo ingxaki zendlela. Hayi ke ingxaki zendlela hayi ke kunzima. Kunzima njengoba kunethi imvula nje ilungiswa kube kanye le ndlela uyimke namanzi bakhe kwanethi imvula. Jonga ngokuba ungahamba apha ubheka ngapha ngapha seqhuqwala, uhamba apha ngaseqhuqwala ziziginqi ngale moto yakho ungatshona.
Urhalela uba ke ngoku ma xa senivoti ningancediswa njani ningabahlali bezilali zalapha emqhekezweni, ingakumbi phaa ubusithi ungasemkhwezo wena?
Ewe, ndiwasemkhwezo. Mna ndiwasemkhwezo. Sisi ingxaki esijongene nayo thina sinengxaki yabantwana abangaphangeliyo abasebenza abantwana bethu. Sinayo ke into ethi nento eyenza nale crime ingaka thina siyayicingela uba mhlambi abantwana badinga into yokwenza. Sentsho zezo nto ke siyarhalela into ba urhulumente avule amathuba. Wakhona umqhothozo ke wento eziphelayo abantwana bamane bebamba kuzo, kodwa ke urhulumente makakha enze ngakumbi, enze bhetele.
Thank you very much, Mama Unokwanda Timakwe, saying that she and her son do not have identity documents because she kept her son's identity document, but she was robbed when she was in town, so she lost both identity documents. So she came here hoping that she will be assisted with applying for a new identity document, but unfortunately she was told that she cannot be assisted because they are assisting people who are first-time applicants and those who came to apply for their children's birth certificates. As I said earlier on, we went to a voting station. It's just across the road, and we were told that only 10 people have come to register to vote this morning. And we hope that because we are at the village where Utata Nelson Mandela grew up at Mqhekezweni village, and the great place, the Queen Mother was also here. We are hoping that we will speak to her and see here if there is anything that is happening. There are people who will be coming. And at the voting station, they told us that they hope that many people will, by the afternoon, come to register to vote. They believe that many people went to funerals and imigiti, so they believe that by the afternoon, by the end of business today, they will come to register to vote. Back to you in studio.
Most certainly. Thank you very much, Fundi. So while all is not lost, they do have just a little under 4 hours still to vote because voter registration centres will be closing at 5 p.m. That's our reporter in the Eastern Cape, Fundiswa Mhlekute. Now it's all systems go for the IEC's first voter registration drive in the Northwest. That's ahead of the 2024 elections. The provincial and national elections are taking place next year. Many residents in the capital, Mahikeng, can be seen going to work, with some indicating they'll go to registration venues a bit later on. Others have, or rather, however, feel they will not register as their vote will not make any difference.
We are here in Mahikeng in the Northwest, where there is a lot of work going on, as we can all see that our IEC workers are busy, hard at work, trying to prepare for the 8 o'clock time that they told us that they will be opening this voting station around 8 o'clock. But as we all know that during the times, even in the past, there has been a lot of voters' apathy, whereby a lot of young people, they have been declining. But with me, I'm having one of our community member who will be able to tell us if he's going to be coming to register in one of these voting stations. Papa, welcome to SABC News. Rene re botsa fela gore a wena o ipaakanyeditse go tla go register.
Marotle a ka re le basha mo karolong ya rona re dumela gore ha re ka registera maybe go ka bona la sengwe se se ka nnang botoka mo ditlhophong tse di tla tlang.
Jaanong mme ga o bua ka ditlhopho tse e leng gore o ka bona go na le pharologano ebile di tle go tokafala, a o nagana gore mo dijareng or mo dingwageng tse di fetileng tse o santse no tla bona diphetogo?
Mma ke dumela gore ha re sa registere ha re kitla re bona diphetogo, mara ha re registera ha re batla go bona diphetogo re tshwanetse re tla go registera re kgone go tlhopha ko boxong re kgone go bona re go tla diragalang ka ditlhopho tse di tla tlang.
That was one of our young people who is saying that he will be indeed here at this voting station to come and register so that he may be able to see change. As we all know that now it's our registration weekend, everybody is on deck, everything is in place.
All right, let's take you to the Free State now, where my colleague Kamogelo Sikoy is standing by for us in KwaZulu. Kamogelo, good afternoon. Firstly, to start with the exact station where you are and then the turnout.
Good day to you, Mfundo, and to the viewers. Well, we are actually at the Puta Dichaba Stadium, where the African Content Movement leader has just finished addressing his members of the party, as well as supporters who came in their numbers from this community of KwaZulu. You remember that this is one of the communities that have been said to be very underserved, a community that struggles to access electricity and also struggles to get water. And one of the things that he was also talking about while addressing his people was the fact that for a community that continues to struggle like this to access basic services, they should go out as well in their numbers as they came here today to go and register and make sure that their voice is heard. And of course, I am with him, Hlaudi Mutwening, and I just want to bring him into the conversation very quickly just to talk to him about some of the things you were talking when you were addressing your members. You spoke about service delivery, electricity, water, lack of jobs in this community, and you also obviously encouraged your people to go and register. What is the importance of registration, particularly this weekend?
It is very important for people of South Africa to go and register. What we need now, we don't need manifesto, we don't need policies, we need people who can make sure that we deal with poverty. How do you deal with poverty? You deal with poverty by creating employment. I'm against people of South Africa depending on the grants. I believe government should make sure that the environment is conducive for investors to invest so that we can create employment. The reason why the ruling party is coming with grants is because they are buying voters to vote for them. And I'm saying to people of South Africa, they must wake up so that they change this government. They should not even vote any party, because in South Africa I don't see any party except ACM, except someone who has track record to change the lives of people, because I'm tested. Someone who has taken decision. People march against me, but marching against me trying to change the lives of our people. As we are talking now, why workers are fighting for salary increment? How do you fight for salary increment? For me, it is a given. If you have happy workers, you pay them well, they will deliver. I'm saying South Africa, we should not depend on the history. We must depend on individuals who can change South Africa. Example, this Imbizos, people going up and down, giving people blankets, giving people food. Why do you do that? Because you know people are hungry, but you are failing to create employment. For me, if you ask me what I'm going to change in South Africa, firstly is to create employment and pay workers well. You know, I know when workers are happy, they will deliver. Where I come from, my track record, people who I was working with, I was giving them sweetness. I was giving them everything, because I know that if they are happy, they are going to deliver for people of South Africa, and they did. For now, what I'm expecting from this rally, you can see today, ACM is growing. It's not the ACM that people know. At that time I was playing, even myself, I was not sure about this animal called politics. But now I have learned a lesson. Now I'm on the ground, I'm working. If you check here around me, I also have other people, unions from the same ANC, others from other political parties. Now they are saying they are tired and they can see future in me, they can see future in the ACM. I want to say to Maludia Pofung, you can march several times. People of South Africa, you can march several times. But if you don't have a leader who has a caring heart like myself, we should forget. These people are just making slogans. They are not able to take decision and deliver. How do you run South Africa by commissions? Which means if you appoint a commission to investigate whatever, what about the NPA? What about the police? That money you must use it to make sure that you create employment for unemployed people. And I'm also against this discrimination that young people must be employed and you discriminate against the adults. Remember, those people, they are around 50s, 60s. They still deserve to work like young people. We must create employment for everyone and we must pay workers well. And I'm talking about people who are working for government. I'm saying to teachers, police, all people who are working for government, they know my track record. If they elect ACM, I'm the leader of this country, I'm going to make sure that they get sweeteners. There's no need for a teacher to go to Machonesa. For what? When you are working? I don't believe in that. But also, I'm concerned about what is happening at judiciary, especially where you have Chief Justice Zondo, who now seems as he is a celebrity, going up and down, tarnishing the former president. When he knew the former president, now as we are speaking, he's in court. As Chief Justice, he must not do that. And he's also compromising other justices in this country, because I believe that if you are Chief Justice, why if you came with recommendation? The recommendations was not for him to force people to take action against his recommendations. Now he want to play smart, as if NPA is not doing their work, as if the police are not doing their work. They're hogs. I think it is wrong. This is the time to stop Chief Justice Zondo, to stop what he's doing, because he's compromising judiciary and we can't allow him to do that. He must know, if he does that, people of South Africa will go against the judiciary. And as a leader, I don't want that to happen. I want people to respect the judiciary. But the judiciary, they must also deal with law, not their personal views, their egos. No, let them deal with the law. People of South Africa will respect them. I'm warning him today that he must stop having this celebrity. You know, when I realized that Chief Justice is going to mess up, when he was chairing the commission, he went to KZN. And then people at the mall, they were happy for him. You know, when you become famous, you are old. It's a problem. I was famous when I was very young. Now the man, he thinks he's more famous now. That's why he's making all this mistake that he's doing. Because now he's playing in the space that he should not play in. Because on record, he said, hey, when I go to the mall, people are coming, they want to photos. How can you have a Chief Justice making such a nonsensical statement? You can't do that. He's trying to be on par with Deputy Chief Justice Dikhamu Seneke. But Dikhamu Seneke, he was famous when he was young. He fought for the struggle. We know, we respect him. Mokwe is a different animal also. But they were not doing what he's doing. I think we are warning him. He must stop what he's doing so that we can respect the judiciary.
Thank you so much for your time. That was Claudia Mutsening there, just talking to us about some of his plans when he does get those votes. But today, of course, being the first day of voter registration, we did speak to some of the people who have attended this rally here in KwaZulu, telling us about the fact that they haven't registered. One of the young people that we spoke to also told us that she wants to listen to all the political parties and make up her own mind about which party to vote for, because for her it is important to hear all the political parties and understand they represent and what their promises are, especially to young people of this country. With that, is back to you in studio.
Thank you very much, Kamogelo Sikwe, who's out in the Free State there, Mr. Mtswaneng, with a lot to say about a number of issues plaguing our country. Well, we take you to KwaZulu-Natal now, in Ulundi, specifically, where SABC News reporter Ayanda Mhlongo is standing by for us with the very latest. Good afternoon, Ayanda. Firstly, just to give us your exact location, which registration centre are you at, and how has the turnout been?
Well, very good afternoon and good afternoon to our viewers. As you said, yes, we are in Lundi, in the heart of Zululand, outside one of the voting stations here, where I must say that it has been pretty quiet since we arrived, although we have not been here for a long time. We have been moving in various parts of the Zululand district from this morning. We started off in Babanangu, moved on to Melmoth, and we are now here in Ulundi. And you're coming to us just as we've just recently, a short while ago, received an update from the provincial electoral officer in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, Ms. Ntomfuthi Masinga, saying that, of course, just generally looking at how the day has gone in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, IEC reporting that we had a bit of a shaky start due to service delivery protests that disrupted the opening of voting stations in at least 8 municipalities in different parts of the province. These including in Mbandle, in the Midlands, in Nkosi Lubalele, also in the KZN Midlands. Moving on to KwaDukuza, that's in the Ilembe district, Greater Kokstad, down in the southern parts of the province, as well as eThekwini. But the IEC saying that at around 10 o'clock this morning, all voting stations, despite the challenges that were encountered this morning, that all the more than 4,000 voting stations here in the province were open. Of course, there has been this good working relationship between the IEC and the police that were mobilized in these districts to go and assist the IEC. In some instances, we're told that angry community members that were protesting over service delivery related issues had blockaded the roads. Others had dug trenches which prevented the IEC staff from being able to access those voting stations. But of now, the IEC saying everything is now underway. And just to speak about what we've observed in the northern parts of KwaZulu-Natal, it has been a bit slow in some of the voting stations. We visited one of the biggest voting stations in Babanangu with about over 1,400 registered voters there. Very few people coming through to check whether or not they are registered, and of course as well as the first time voters. Many of the community members that we were speaking to, mixed views. Others are quite despondent, saying that they are not interested in voting and therefore they are not going to register to vote or check that they are registered. But of course there were others that, despite the circumstances in that particular area, which has had little to no service delivery, residents are saying that they wanted to come out to ensure that they are registered to vote, so that come next year, once we do have a date, that they do go out and make their voices heard, hoping that that vote come next year is going to be able to bring about some change in their community. So of course, as I was saying, that different views in the different areas, very, very slow in some parts, very few people coming through. But of course, we still have until 5 p.m. this afternoon for people to go through to these voting stations. And then, of course, tomorrow, people are still able to go through. Those that have not been able to go and check that they are indeed registered to vote, and those first-time voters still have the opportunity to go out tomorrow. Also, what some people have also told us, which I guess is good, is the fact that the Home Affairs offices are open today, and so they're making use of this opportunity to be able to go and pick up their ID books or to apply for ID. So some people quite happy about the fact that they are going to get that opportunity to be able to go through to Home Affairs. Let me just move out of shot here for my colleague Rain Bell. As I was saying, at this voting station here in Ulundi, which is often quite busy during the elections, has been pretty quiet right. We've been here. I think we've seen 2 people entering this voting station. I must also make mention of the fact that in the area of Ulundi, in this district, we were expecting that there is going to be quite a heavy police presence on the ground, considering the fact that there has been a number of incidents, the killings of political party leaders here. And indeed, that is the picture that we are seeing of all the areas that we have visited. We've seen quite a number of police officers that have been deployed here in the town of Ulundi. In fact, as we were entering the town, there was a roadblock, local traffic authorities as well as the road traffic inspectorate. There was a roadblock there. And we have been seeing police officers as well, quite a number of police officers that are conducting patrols just here at the voting station as well, where we are. There are police officers on guard as well. They're saying that in this particular incident, not in this particular area rather, there hasn't been any incidents that have been reported, but police are on the ground ensuring that there are no disruptions at the voting stations. Also, what we've seen usually in most voting stations, you have the political parties outside trying to move around and encourage people to come through. Haven't seen a lot in this area, very few as well in some of the other voting stations that we have visited. But by and large, it looks like there is a strong police presence in this area. We're still, of course, just a few hours to go before the voting stations close at 5 p.m. this afternoon, and we will from here be moving on just to check what is happening outside the other voting stations.
All right, and I was actually about to ask you about the political parties' presence, because they also have a role to play here, as you say, in encouraging young voters, especially the first-time ones, to come out and register, because essentially what we want to see is a greater participation in the vote, because then it becomes a true reflection of the people's will, not necessarily just a small margin of people going out to vote. But we must certainly touch base with you a bit later on in the day, because indeed voter registration does close at 5 p.m. rather. That is our reporter there, Ayanda Mhlongo, out in KZN for us. More news on the other side of this break. Do stay with us. Welcome back. Thank you very much for staying with us. The Limpopo government, business organizations and members of the public have embraced the province's recent employment data. Now, according to the latest quarterly labour survey, the number of unemployed persons in South Africa decreased from 32.6% in the second quarter to 31.9% in the third quarter. Limpopo has recorded some of the lowest rates of unemployed persons at 30.8%.
Limpopo is a vast province with a population of over 6.5 million people. The province is also one of the largest mining regions in the country. The latest employment data shows that mining and agriculture have played a significant role in job creation over the last 4 quarters. The government says the province has seen a considerable amount of investment in the mining and agricultural sectors.
So what we have been doing in the past 3 years is to call on investors to come into the province to invest in various areas, especially in the mining sector, which is now being attributed as the major input into the growth of our economy. And that has been coming in a lot better, and we are seeing greater changes in the way in which our economy is performing, but as well some of the areas that are being influenced by the growth of mining, particularly the municipalities like Fitahomu, Tubatse. They are experiencing a growth in population, but also in terms of economic activities.
The Limpopo Chamber of Commerce and Industry has urged young people to tap into the province's economic growth by diversifying their skill set.
It shows that there is diversification of job opportunities. And as a result, our youth will not only look in one sector to look for employment, but then again, it also brings a challenge that those who are looking for work, they need to also align themselves with the demands of every industry. And that requires for the chamber and all other stakeholders, government and private sector, to collaborate in making sure that we inform the youth of all these opportunities, how they can align their skills and training.
The construction of malls and shopping centers was also cited as one of essential contributors to job creation. Several malls were opened across the province over the last 3 years. Over 400 people were employed throughout the construction process of the recently opened Greenery Mall in Polokwane.
If I can add on, during construction phase, the people who benefited during construction, at the highest time it peaked at around 420. And these are local people. I can tell you 80% of the people who were employed were all locals. And also 90% of the spend of the shopping center was via the local shops, local subcontractors. There's local hardwares and local infrastructure guys. They benefited from this shopping center.
Job seekers say the recent job statistics give them hope. This gives me a little bit of hope when I see our province is growing. Maybe we'll get some jobs. I'm hopeful. I've been starving for years with no luck of finding any job. The public sector has also been hailed for creating jobs in the province. Rutando Bobori, SABC News, Polokwane.
All right, for more on this, we're now joined by Dr. Frederick Kirsten, who is a lecturer at the School of Economics at the University of Johannesburg. Doctor, good afternoon and thank you very much for your time. So our employment figures are now just slightly above the pre-COVID levels, and the latest stats, of course, being the 8th consecutive increase that we've recorded since the fourth quarter of 2021. Your views on just this improvement?
Yes, I think there's quite a reason to be optimistic about what is happening currently with our employment figures. I think the increase and really recovering from our pre-COVID pandemic levels and even surpassing that, I think is quite encouraging. I do think there's still things to look at in terms of where these jobs have been created and the societal impact they might have to really maximize their effect. But I do think it really shows the South African economy is gaining ground, even though it's still struggling with other issues, external issues, which we'll talk about probably later on.
Now, speaking of where the employment was in fact created, the employment by industries, we're looking at finance sector being the biggest contributor to the employment increase. We also have community and social services as well as agriculture. Perhaps unpack for us your views just on these three.
Yeah, so the finance sector is normally one of the strongest sectors in South Africa. It creates quite a significant amount of jobs, although it does create a lot of high-skilled jobs, which creates a bit of a mismatch in our sector or in our economy. But really, if you look at a community and social work sector, that is really where you need to look at, because recently the South African government has really done a lot in terms of the presidential stimulus packages to really encourage the youth, give them public work, and that is even captured in those figures. And that is so important because that public work packages really ignited more growth in the job sectors in that area. But also we know that that is tied to budget constraints moving forward. So that is where it becomes tricky moving forward.
So meaning there is a bit of a problem there because we're looking to curtail the public sector wage bill. So in this instance, if we're having government being among the highest employers, it's a problem because you want the private sector to be employing more.
Yes, especially these stimulus packages, presidential stimulus packages, where we had teaching assistants coming in and so on, which really created public work for the youth. And I think it's so important moving forward. And if it can be expanded, that will even be better. But the thing is, currently the budget constraint is looming towards cutting, which is something we can't afford, but it's also something we need to deal with moving forward.
Then to the other big talking points, the mining and manufacturing sectors dropping significantly. Not many were surprised, I must say, because the decrease in mining, for one, is something that we've been reporting on around particularly the logistical challenges due to issues within Transnet that for the longest time, we've now been hearing of mines saying they're looking to retrench or even possibly curtail their production purely because they cannot move their goods to the ports. Are you among those who weren't surprised by the drop here?
Yes, I think definitely the drop there can be expected, not just because of the domestic issues in the country regarding the infrastructure, but also regarding external issues. We've seen a large decrease in global commodity prices, which also affects that export value. And I think that's so important to also consider. So it's from a double-sided sword almost coming in. And I think slashing the mining sector employment was expected.
Now, with the manufacturing, what needs to happen here? Because ever so often, just after BRICS, there was a whole conversation around needing to grow this sector. We need to beneficiate more. We no longer want to be considered those that are bringing out the primary goods or the raw materials and then exporting those. We want to really play in this value-added space. But now we're seeing a decrease. What must happen here?
Yes, well, that is a very tricky question because I think in manufacturing depends so much on innovation, which depends then on education and making sure there's that type of innovation. But currently, what you can also do with manufacturing, you can attract a lot of foreign investment into your country to assist you with getting that platform off the ground. I think we have a lot of success stories, the automobile industry in South Africa that has worked on that model. And I think moving forward, that's to still be the model moving forward. But I do think the big thing there is the manufacturing skills, upgrading our skills to include robotics, AI, and digital transformation. All of these are so important because that's where the world is heading in terms of manufacturing. It's not old techniques being used anymore, but a new upgraded techniques that need new skills. And currently our workforce just don't have that skills to really go into those jobs and taking those jobs. And that will create even an influx of investors if they see there is this job market here that they can tap into.
Now, when going through those stats, I also saw a steady increase in household employment. Can we associate this particular one to the increase in the formal sector employment? That essentially here it means that the more of us who are now employed and away from our homes, we would then employ people to man our households.
Yes, that's quite true. That's the whole thing about employment is also about the ripple effect it has on the household, on the people around the household, and really the services that the household now can acquire, which then creates more jobs. And I think that is quite important for us because currently these statistics don't really tell a lot about what the behind the numbers scene, like who's getting the jobs and what is the societal impact of maybe a person getting a job in a family that has never had a job. And that creates a large ripple effect of positive economic outcome in that family or in that household.
And then employment by occupation or occupational categories. We see that the managerial posts have gone down while the employment of plant and machine operators have gone higher, possibly lending credence to, I suppose, the idea that we need to start looking at more artisanal work because our economy is headed that way. What are your views around just the stats there?
Yeah, so that's quite interesting, the managerial positions going down, but I do think that is just about a restructuring in the private sector also, and then also the wide expansion of production that creates the demand for plant and machine operators, and especially if we see the growth in the construction industry with the previous chat about the malls in Limpopo coming up, that is all based on that. So I think it's quite important to think about all of that when you think about the various levels of occupations diverting.
So with us seeing a lot of managers being done away with, I just want to get clarity. Are you saying that when people are restructuring, the first to go would be the management because they're the most paid, and you'd rather stay with the lower skilled type of workers here or the lower paid workers?
I think it depends for different companies, and I cannot speak on any company, but I do think that restructuring takes place normally where you have maybe resources which you can place in a certain, or you can replace, or you can even, job automation is coming to the forefront. So these are the things, and the middle class is the ones that are normally the most threatened by automation, because it's normally not a lower class or the higher class, but it's actually the middle class, the semi-skilled workers that are most threatened by automation, and we can even see that in the creation of jobs.
Now, speaking of automation and mechanization, because when we speak 4IR, it seems many analysts are saying we are ill-prepared for this particular era. Do you foresee a situation here where we see a drastic decrease in employment as the years progress? just because of how slow we are in actually starting to adapt and realizing that the era of mechanization and automation is here already?
Yes, I think that's quite important, because the thing is, we're currently in that phase where we want to go for these more efficient ways of production, but we still have a very large labor-intensive labor supply, which we need to take care of. And I think that will stop us from going too quickly too forward. And I think it's something we have to think about. But again, education is there really the driving force that can really take your unskilled labor force towards the point where they can actually work with AI and automation and the 4AR industry and revolution, because South Africa and Africa as a whole can really tap into this new revolution of 4AR AI. And I think there's a lot of potential moving forward, but there's also a lot of threat in terms of digital inequality that can come around from this.
And then just in closing, another interesting category was the employment by province, the largest increase in employment, of course, being recorded in KZN. What could we attribute this significant increase to?
So I think, again, that's the whole breakdown in terms of, you look at the sectors that increased: finance sector, construction sector. I think that is really where a lot came from. Also, if you think about youth unemployment, given the public works programs, I think a lot of the youth got jobs during this quarters in terms of those public work jobs, which I think are so vital in moving forward. We just need to be careful about dependency on the budgets. So that's quite important. But I think that can be attributed to those three really important sectors that grew in the scope, in the total scope, but more predominantly in the KZN area.
Dr. Kirsten, a pleasure talking to you this afternoon. That's Dr. Frederick Kirsten. He is a lecturer at the University of Johannesburg. Now back to our voter registration coverage, to the Western Cape now, where SABC News reporter Corbin August is monitoring voter registration in Gugulethu. Corbin, good afternoon. Firstly, just the location where you are currently.
Yes, indeed. Good afternoon to you and to the viewers. We are currently positioned just outside Bonga Primary School here in Gugulethu in Cape Town. This is one of the voting stations that has opened for registrations today. It's one of around 1,572 voting stations across the province that have been open today for registrations. So that is where we currently are.
The number of people that are coming in there, how has it been since the morning?
Well, it's been a slow morning. And the afternoon has also been progressing quite slowly. When we received some information from officials earlier, they said that the registration numbers at this stage are perhaps below 10 for people who came through. However, when we were here, we did see a first-time voter, someone who came to register now for the first time, an 18-year-old gentleman. And he said he was extremely excited to be registering because it meant that he would be in a position to cast his vote in the elections next year. So we were fortunate enough to catch one of those first-time voters and to catch the excitement and the feeling that he has for the upcoming elections and also just around voter registrations. Of course, him saying that he feels it's important to register and to vote, because then he will be in a position to make change, to vote for the government which he feels can help alleviate their social ills and help increase their welfare and well-being, especially in townships such as Gugulethu.
Did you manage to speak to political parties, perhaps just around there, or even community members who decided to stay home, on what exactly is the reason they would decide not to perhaps go and register to vote?
Well, there weren't that many political parties who have been set up outside of this registration station. And of course, with the people who stayed at home, we were at two other voting stations as well before we came to Gugulethu. And the feeling is generally the same. A lot of people saying that it's on a Saturday and Most people, they need to do their grocery shopping, or they need to go take kids to various activities, or they have other admin plan for the Saturday. So indeed, it was perhaps a slow start around the morning, but we are hoping, and the ICU says they're expecting that the numbers might pick up a bit more tomorrow, and we'll see an update on the voter figures and the turnout as the registration weekend progresses.
All right, Corbin, thank you very much for that reportage. That's our reporter Corbin August, who's out in the Western Cape monitoring voter registration for us there. Now, there's been a decrease in the murder and sexual offences reported to police between July and September this year. That's according to the second quarter crime stats released by Police Minister Bheki Cele in Pretoria. They showed a 0.8% drop in the number of people murdered in the period under review. There's also been a drop of 1.5% in the number of sexual offences reported. Cele, however, says they can't take comfort in the slight reduction in violent crimes.
The figures show that there have been more than 6,000 murders reported countrywide between July and September. And children have not been spared from the brutal attacks and abuse. 293 were killed during this period, and just over 880 women were murdered, whilst 35 police officers lost their lives on duty. The police ministry has condemned attacks on women and children.
Despite the overall drop in the country's murder rate between July and September this year, 6,945 people were murdered in South Africa in 3 months. That's why we can't take comfort of the reduction. We can't say we have arrived. We can't say we have done all the best. These figures are too high. But the point we're making that almost since 2012, it's a first time where we had 2 quarters following one another where we have made some reduction on crime murder.
Cele has noted with extreme concern the recent brutal stabbing of a Western Cape University female student in broad daylight. He indicated that the police continue to improve its responses to such crimes through increased operations to trace GBV perpetrators and arrest serial offenders.
The scourge of violence against women and children in South Africa must be confronted equally by law enforcement, the whole of government and the whole of society. That must be done head-on. The police ministry and management has noted with extreme concern the recent brutal stabbing of the Western Cape University student in broad daylight. SABC continues to upscale its responses to this form of crime through increased operations to trace the GBVF perpetrators, arrest serial offenders as well as serial rapists.
He added that DNA backlogs, which stood at over 240,000 2 years ago, have been completely cleared.
SABC's forensic laboratories across the country continue to work optimally, and relevant contracts crucial for the functioning of labs are in place.
The police also recorded just over 6,000 hijackings and 6,045 robberies at residential properties. There were more than 4,900 robberies at non-residential premises. And there's been a resurgence in cash-in-transit robberies, with 64 cases reported. No bank robberies were reported. The minister has attributed most of the arrest to Operation Chanela, which has resulted in the arrest of over 226,000 suspects, including some of the most wanted and dangerous criminals. Mulimawane Motwa, SABC News, Pretoria.
We shift our focus to this story now. 2 of the accused in the February 2020 theft at President Cyril Ramaphosa's Palapala farm have been granted bail. Siblings Floriana and Dilinasho Joseph, alongside a third accused, Emanuela David, appeared before the Bela Magistrate Court. David is expected to apply for bail during their next court appearance on the 6th of December.
Back in the dock, Emanuela David, Floriana and Dilinasho Joseph have been charged with housebreaking, conspiracy to commit housebreaking and theft. The Joseph siblings started with their bail application last week. The pair told court that they were South African nationals with no ties outside the country. The services of an Ivambo translator was sourced for the proceedings.
David Joseph kunashedula mlongo mbali na heyali.
Ovambo is predominantly spoken in Namibia and Angola. The state did not oppose the Joseph siblings' bail applications, stating they had cooperated with investigations.
All right.
Floriana was granted 5,000 rand bail, while Ndili Nasho received 10,000 rand bail.
It is in the interest of justice that accused number 2 and accused number 3 be released on bail with the following conditions. In respect of accused number 2, bail is fixed at an amount of 5,000 rand. In respect of accused number 3, bail is fixed at an amount of 10,000 rand. This amount may be paid in at the clerk of court, Bella Bella. He must refrain from any communication with the witnesses for the prosecution. His passport shall remain in custody of the investigating officer until the matter has been finalized. He shall not leave the jurisdiction of Mthatha, Eastern Cape.
The third accused, Emanuela David, will only apply for bail during the next court appearance. He faces an additional charge of money laundering. The prosecutor told court that they would oppose David's bail application.
Accused number 1, duly represented by Mr. Matlala, intends to bring an application for bail. However, that application will be lodged with this court on the 6th of December 2023, which the state can indicate upfront that it will be an opposed bail application and the state is ready.
At the time of the theft, Floriana worked as a domestic worker at Palapala farm. Biman Baloi, SABC News, Bilabila.
All right, and that's where we leave it for today. It's almost 2 p.m., meaning you have 3 hours still to go and register to vote. So do make sure that you head to your nearest and preferred voter registration station of choice. Have a wonderful afternoon further. We see you tomorrow.